Hi there, thank you for joining me today. And today, in this video, I'm going to tell you a true story about how God encouraged my husband and I when we did not see a source of encouragement or support after something happened. And after I finish this story, then I'm going to give you a word the Lord shared with me to encourage us. So when we were married about a little over a year, we were asked to help people with a ministry. And so we first moved into a small apartment that was attached to a very large house with our baby, who was going to be 1 year old. And we were asked if we would go to a conference at a church. And at first I thought, yeah, I'll try to do that. I'll go there with my husband. But then I thought, well, maybe this is my opportunity to kind of get some rest from still getting up, a lot at night with the baby. But before it was time for us to leave, I felt the Lord speak to me and say, just pack your things, pack the baby's things, and you go ahead after your husband leaves, which he left before me, and then you go ahead and go to the church that's having the conference. So I did that, and we were there 2 days. And on the second day, my husband got a phone call, and this was way before cell phones. And the person on the phone said to him, "Where's your wife?" That was one of the first things they said. Where's your wife? And my husband said, "Well, my wife's right here." And they said, "Is she okay?" And he said, "Sure, she's okay." And the reason that they were asking him that is because we found out that the apartment that we were staying in was broken into. Someone had shot a bullet through the glass, and it was all broken. And then they turned off the electricity, and they stole everything that we had, which wasn't much. We were just actually using one bedroom and then a small area of a kitchen. So what happened was they took all the clothes that we had in the closet, and that included some of the new things that my baby got, because they grow so fast. And some of my relatives knew that she was going to have her first birthday, and they stole everything. They put it in the center of our bedspread, on the bed, and then they just took up the corners of it and just carried everything off. And another thing I had with me is I had brought a jewelry box, which, most of everything was just old costume jewelry, except my diamond ring that I had for when we got married. And they stole that as well. So everything was taken, which the only thing, like I said, was valuable was the diamond rings. And so what they did not touch is that we had like a little table next to the bed with a Bible on it, and it was the only thing that wasn't taken away. So we stayed at the conference at the church that I mentioned just for a few days, and then we came back to see what was going on, because the man that called my husband on the phone was from the police, and he said it looked like maybe your wife had been kidnapped or something, because we found a knife in the yard as well. And also the refrigerator was turned off because they turned the electricity off. And previous to that, someone was very kind to us, and they gifted us some meat and things like that we could put in the freezer. Well, it was off for several days, and all sorts of bugs and things like that got in the freezer. So when we made it back to town, my husband put the refrigerator out in the yard, and we put gloves on and covered up our noses with cloth things because it smelled so bad. And then we got really strong detergent and a hose. So we got everything out of the freezer and put it in the trash bags, and then kept spraying it down and putting this really strong detergent there because it was exceptionally smelly. And so we got all that done and let it sit out there and air out. And they turned the electricity back on, and so we got the refrigerator back in there. But we were thinking, why did God let that happen? We just, like, initially said, yes, we will be at the church conference, but also after that was going to happen, we were asked if we would cooperate with them starting a Christian college and if we would help them with the students here. I was like the dorm mom for the females, and my husband was over the men, and he also was the basketball coach. So that was what our positions were. And because we didn't have hardly any clothes after that had happened, and we were thinking, well, we hardly have any money. So we were really in a phase that we just were kind of shocked, and we're thinking, why did this even happen? And as we went along for a few days, we just prayed and we thanked God, and we asked Him to provide things that we needed, and also to heal our hearts because we were devastated because that happened. We were informed that my husband's dad had called him and he found out what happened, and he just said, just quit, just leave. I have a job for you that you were doing with me before. You were making really good money. Just quit everything, and you don't have to, stay in the ministry, and just come back home. Well, we knew that we weren't supposed to do that. And I called my parents, and they also basically said the same thing. Pam, you already had a job here, and you can just come back and pick up from, where you left off. And I explained to my parents, I said, I know that I was chosen to be in the ministry. This happened to me when I was 15 years old. I was at a camp, and they taught us, how to surrender to what God would have you to do. And I did that at 15, but it didn't take action because I was in high school. And so then it happened, shortly after that we were married. So we stayed and did what we promised that we would do for the Christian college, and it was very fruitful for how we could interact to the students there, and we were very glad that we stuck that out. But also when we prayed, the Lord gave us faith and said, you're going to have trials, but I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of your baby. But it was really difficult and grueling for us because we were in our early 20s, and that was probably one of the most difficult things that had happened to us in our lives, until that time. So God restored us, He helped us, and we were so thankful for that, but it was a difficult process for us. Now I would like to share with you an encouraging word that the Lord gave me that can encourage you when difficult times come and things happen that you just really never thought would happen. So this is the word. Encourage yourselves in the Lord, and He will lift you up. His ways are not our ways, and at times we are caught up into a vortex of negative emotions, difficult circumstances, and misalignment of our very soul. We feel as if we are striving against the wind and not hearing the voice of God as we would desire. Use your will to make the correct choice to go against your feelings, go against your doubts, and lift up yourself by focusing on what you know to be true about the Lord. No matter what, He works all things together for your good, and that is in Romans 8:28. You will have the strength to fulfill God's will as you step out in faith. Before you step out into new territory, you may have many onslaughts of feeling cheated by life, harmed by others, and the doubt demons have been working overtime on your thoughts. Now is a time to exercise your will. Jesus was very distraught in the Garden of Gethsemane and asked if God would let him not have to suffer through the evil torment that was ahead for his trial, physical torture and mental and spiritual torture that no one had or ever would experience. He prayed, "Let this cup pass from me," which meant, I don't want to go into all the torture. Father God, will you allow me to not have to do this? But Jesus, with his will, submitted to God and said, "Not my will, but your will, Father, be done." Choose by your will, when difficult things happen, to turn to what you know is true about God when you do not see the evidence of Him working in your life. Focus on His promises and confess your anger and unbelief during your time of testing. He will lift you up. He will not cause you to bear more than He enables you to bear up under with His strong support. Do not believe the thoughts that He has abandoned you, because He has promised He will never leave you or forsake you. And I would like to give you this quote by a missionary, Elisabeth Elliot, that some of you may have heard about. And she had surrendered to be a missionary, and where they were going to be missionaries, her and her husband, was like a jungle. And when they got there, her husband went to go and talk to the people that lived there, and they didn't really understand him because they spoke a different language. But what the people did to the missionary that came to help them is that they killed him. And Elizabeth could have left because something horrible happened. But God persuaded her to stay there and to give the people there the gospel so that they would become Christians. And that was a horrific sacrifice for her, that she lost her husband and then she was going to be alone. And there are a few people she knew there, but mostly alone, and grieving her husband's death. And then going into the jungle with the people and getting to know them and giving them the gospel. So we realized, she says in her quote, she realized that the deepest spiritual lessons are not learned by His letting us have our own way in the end, but by His making us wait, bearing with us in love and patience until we are able to honestly pray what He taught the disciples to pray: "Thy will be done." So this is helpful, I hope, for you, because we'll just go along in life and sometimes things are smooth and other times things are very rocky. So when that happens, we just pray what Jesus prayed: "Thy will be done," and He will help us, and He will help us to also to have more Christ-like character. So I want to say, would you please subscribe and like this and comment? I love to read the comments. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I will see you in my next video.